I'm Connor Old, and welcome back to another episode of Old's Oscar Countdown. And here we are in week 2 of the 2019 Oscar season. If you're new to the series, what I do every single week is I break down an Oscar category and I predict my nominations. Then when the nominations come out, I predict what I think is going to win. But as of right now, we're so early. Here's just my initial thoughts for this category, and to keep things sort of update and relevant every single week, I like to talk about sort of a general topic of movies that are rising or falling, or just in general sort of maybe people and sort of buzz that's gaining for certain movies and whatnot. So let's start with a quick update. That is the idea of Bohemian Rhapsody. We're starting to see a little bit of the critical appreciation, and before in last episode I talked a little bit about sort of Rami Malek potentially getting in for Bohemian Rhapsody in terms of Best Lead Actor. Those chances actually are maybe a little bit tempered. From the critical response, it seems like he's fantastic in the movie. I mean, it's him as Freddie Mercury is like Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln. Almost, if he gets in, he'll win for sure. But the likelihood of him getting in, I think, is actually pretty low, because you have to realize that the steam and the build has to be required on a lot of things. I could see if this was a sort of a decent enough movie, people nominating Rami Malek and maybe not the movie to get in the critics groups. But then, because it's such a competitive year for Best Actor this year, I don't think that's going to happen. And with it competing as a drama in the Golden Globes, I don't think there's even less likelihood that he actually will get in, or even the film will get in. It has to have a really good showing at the Golden Globes. Because if that doesn't happen, then I see Rami Malek sort of having a bad negative trajectory, and that him, even though he put in an amazing performance, the movie is just sort of meh. Like, he's a good guy in a meh movie, so then it will fall accordingly. That's just from early reactions. Who knows? Once the audience see it, they may sort of really enjoy it. I have heard some great things, like it's a fun movie and whatnot. Maybe it's not the sort of best Oscar movie we may think it is. That being said, I still think Rami Malek still has the best chance to get in, and if he does get in, that could definitely support Bohemian Rhapsody's chances at getting that Best Picture nom. But moving over into Best Actress, the topic of this series, it's going to be a very interesting year, because I think there's actually sort of a solid 4, I'd say, and then the 5th one is very sort of interchangeable, whereas sort of the Best Actor, I say almost they're all interchangeable. It's hard to say. We'll talk about that next week, of course, and Best Picture is always in flux, but Best Actress for this year, I think right now is pretty good. So we have a solid 4, I think. I'd be surprised. Actually, I guess maybe probably a solid 3 at best. There's the 4 and 5 can be a couple of different people, and sort of just depends on what the Academy likes and what the critics groups may pick up. That's always important too. But there's one person I'm pretty sure that's going to get in, and that is Lady Gaga for A Star Is Born. Now, I'm not saying I can't see the narrative and them sort of rejecting the other person from the industry and sort of, criticizing her for maybe relying too much on her singing, but I think that's maybe a nitpick. I think that's actually the reason why they are going to recognize her, is that because this is her first time acting. She's this sort of idol from another industry, and she comes down here and she really blows people away. Most people, when she was at her height of popularity, she was wearing meat dresses to the VMAs. Now this is a movie where she doesn't rely on sort of all those gimmicks to get popularity. She's stripped down in a sense. She's not doing any of the crazy stunts. It's her really an incredible sort of presence. She has an amazing presence in this, and a powerful voice, and I think that will also help her in terms of campaigning. Just to be like, oh, Lady Gaga's going to be here. It's not one of their actor friends, that can always help them, knowing someone. But this is this sort of narrative of a person from another industry coming over and just wowing voters, and just the film wows her. I mean, how the sort of first dates and everything leads up to that shallow moment here, which is absolutely incredible and absolutely the highlight of the film, to the emotional heartbreak of the end. I think that people in the Oscar votes will just be allured by sort of her amazing, sort of stripped down raw performance within, and her amazing singing ability, which I think maybe she relies too much on in the movie. I do think she has some problems in terms of her acting, but I don't think most people see it that way. It's a very emotional performance too, and with movies like Emma Stone with La La Land, and even to a certain extent, Frances McDormand with Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. These are movies that make you feel a very strong emotion, like, anger and rage for Three Billboards, for example, in some scenarios, and really sort of passion and love and romance in La La Land, and I think you feel the same thing for A Star Is Born. So for Lady Gaga to come from another industry, there's no lowering factor to that. And I think that will really sort of propel her and help her chances. Because at the end of the day, the Oscars really like narratives. Because speaking of narratives, boom, Melissa McCarthy, Can You Ever Forgive Me? I feel very strongly about this movie and about her chances. Really, my strength in the movie comes from the strength, I think, of Melissa McCarthy and Richard E. Grant getting nominated. If they don't happen, that's a possibility, of course. But I think sort of a surprise hit that everyone sort of feels with it, because no one really knew what to think coming out of Toronto. They all really enjoyed it, but they never knew if it was going to be Oscar contender. And it has that sort of feel to it. Oh, have you seen Can You Ever Forgive Me? It's really good. You should see it. It's very good. And it has this sort of building almost a cult status already within the Oscar community. And Melissa McCarthy is the standout of this movie. She is the highlight. She's the one that has that sort of transformation. This is the comedic actress who has sort of dominated the American comedic box office for a while, turning into more of a dramatic role and knocking it out of the park. And a lot of times, comedy actors can do drama very well. I mean, think of Andrew Dice Clay with he was in Blue Jasmine, but he's also in Star is Born this year. Dave Chappelle's in there, of course. The great Robin Williams, who won an Oscar for Good Will Hunting, was nominated for Dead Poet Society. I mean, these are dramatic turns by comedic actors work well for a lot of these comedic actors, because comedy is also very hard to do. And actually, I think they really like Melissa McCarthy. As if you don't know, in 2011, she was nominated for her acting in Bridesmaids. That's incredibly rare, because comedies almost never like that. Mainstream sort of comedies never get nominated for Oscars for her. So for her to get nominated for acting, I mean, that was sort of her coming onto the scene moment. This is now her sort of, turning dramatic and really having a meaty role moment. I think that could sort of really snowball into an amazing narrative. I think the nomination is pretty good in, because she's amazing in this movie, and it's the idea of her, and I haven't seen the movie, but her and the unlikely pairing between her and Richard E. Grant, who I also think will get nominated. I think just the sort of genre transformation, they already like Melissa McCarthy already. There's a good chance she's going to get it, and I feel confident about this one. And then another one I feel confident about, Olivia Colman for The Favourite. If you don't know, there's been some sort of rearranging in The Favourite, because there's really 3 supporting actresses: Olivia Colman, Emma Stone, and Rachel Weisz. However, they decided that Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz are going to be campaigning in the supporting actress category, and Olivia Colman's going to be campaigning in the lead actress category. This indicating to me that they have a lot of faith in Olivia Colman actually winning in this category, being that if anyone, she will be the lead of the film. And The Favourite is a movie that I actually believe in. I think it has a really easy sort of schedule and a path and a trajectory to the Oscars night, especially for Olivia Colman, because I think The Favourite will do well relatively in the critics groups, and that, the negative being is that no one really sees her as a lead, which could hurt, her chances, especially if the critics groups put her as supporting, and that sort of diminishes her lead performance, and that sort of becomes the narrative that, oh, she's not really a lead, right? We've seen this before. Is The Martian really a comedy? But speaking of that, the Golden Globes, I say an easy trajectory, because if she does get into the lead for the critics and actually gets nominated, that's all she needs. Because The Favourite is labeled as a comedy at the Globes, it has virtually no competition. So she will win at the Golden Globes. So if she has sort of an amazing speech, and then sort of rise that wave with maybe some of the critics groups, she could be sort of the Frances McDormand, the sort of well-respected actress. She's not as respected, say, as Frances McDormand, who's already won, but sort of the older, more respected actress who has sort of an incredibly meaty role and sort of portrayal that we haven't seen, especially for this time period. The Favourite could be very strong, and if it's as strong as the movies, I think it's actually going to have to win something by the way they sort of been spreading the awards around. So even though it's in 3rd place, it's a heavy dark horse, because my sort of judgment is that if it gets sort of nominated within the critics groups and she gets that lead and they sort of follow the Oscars path, forget it. I think she has a great trajectory to the Oscars, and I'm confident in her winning. Here, this is my number 4th pick. This is maybe a little more of a controversial choice as we get to 4 and 5, but I think she's going to get in. This is Yalitza Aparicio for Roma. she is really the emotional center of this movie. She is the window into this world. She's the person we care about. She's the reason why the emotion in the film works. And I think Oscar voters will appreciate that. I believe in the strength of Roma as being an Oscar contender. This is the type of film the Academy really wants to, at least recently, been sort of centering themselves around. You know, the big question is, are they going to switch that shift because of the sort of Best Popular Picture fiasco and sort of wanting to increase, you know, viewership? And will they try to sort of save themselves before it gets to that point? They've sort of been threatened with that, and maybe it's not happening this year, but maybe it will. Who knows? But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, this is the type of movie that they want to center themselves around. The Academy's very much being more art house in terms of adult dramas. It's a very well respected movie, and I think that can very much get a lot of 2s and 3s in terms of the movie. And I think it's got to get something. It can't just be all technical. I think it has to be maybe an acting. You know, we saw something like this, you know, with The Shape of Water, with Sally Hawkins, Octavia Spencer. I mean, movies that really feature a strong Best Picture category. A lot of times, even something like Jean Dujardin, who actually ended up winning for The Artist. There's an actor that, I'm not saying she's going to win for this movie, but there's at least has to be an actor nomination. Plus, she has the allure similar to Lady Gaga. This being her first time actress, this is her first time acting. She doesn't speak English. There's sort of that barrier, and actually, I think that barrier may help her. We see people like Monique and Danielle Day-Lewis who campaign very rarely and actually end up winning and doing well, and that's their campaign, is that they don't care. And then the sort of people get sort of interested into the Academy, gets really interested into them, and I think the Academy will get interested into her because there is the language barrier, as she only speaks Spanish. This is her first time acting. She really blows you away. She just feels like, she doesn't feel like an actor. She feels like, oh, this is just a real person that they took off the streets of Mexico. It's a brilliant performance in that sense. So we'll nominate her because this is her first time. We'll nominate her because she sort of did an amazing thing. And because if you like the movie, you like her. So I think that right now, even though she's sort of maybe a little of a dark horse, I think she's a little stronger than some people think. Alright, and my last one goes to Glenn Close for The Wife. This is sort of my least likely probability. I think that the fifth slot is all over the place and Viola Davis could get in and whatnot, but if you don't know, Glenn Close is an actress who has been nominated 6 times, and by the time they get nominated for the 6th time, the 7th time they win, because people sort of catch on to the fact that she hasn't won before. This is a well-respected actress. Why is she becoming the biggest loser in actress in Oscar history, you know? Sony Pictures Classic, who was running this movie, really is trying to push that narrative. And listen, we've seen this narrative happen before. Roger Deakins last year, Blade Runner 2049, Julianne Moore, Still Alice. If this narrative sort of builds and pushes, it's going to happen. If people say, Glenn Close, this is her year, The Wife, she's winning. I mean, this still could happen, although I think the likelihood of this happening, the later we go on in the Oscar season, the less likely it's going to happen. And especially for a movie like The Wife, where it's a uphill battle because it's going to get no other nominations. People saw it in the summer. People forgot about the movie. They really have to just give Glenn Close the win because they like Glenn Close. And I'm not sure if she gets that, which maybe sort of threatens Amy Adams' potential in Best Supporting Actress, which we'll talk about eventually. But right now, I think if that steam and that buzz, which I'm not really feeling right now, it doesn't build. You know, we don't say it's Glenn Close's year, right? We're not saying like, oh, we have to get her the win. It's not building like that. I don't think she's going to, get in. So, but if it does sort of happen, she's going to win. But if it doesn't sort of happen, she's not going to get nominated. Or maybe she will in that 5 slot. Hard to say right now, but right now she's in there. Now to some of these honorable mentions. There's sort of a lot of sort of different ones. I don't have it here, but I do want to mention quickly Toni Collette for Hereditary. That's the sort of summer movie craze that we had that, and even the documentary side, Three Identical Strangers and Won't You Be My Neighbor. I categorize these, and even some are in a Quiet Place, into these summer type movies from great performances. Toni Collette in Hereditary, sort of a generally comedic actress, going incredibly weird and strange with horror. I see the critics groups nominating her, and then that could build her in terms of steam, because the Golden Globes definitely could nominate her. So watch out for Toni Collette. I think she's the biggest dark horse, even though I don't have her on here. Of course, Viola Davis for Widows. She's the biggest presence because she just won. They want to nominate her. However, right now I don't believe in the success of Widows. If it does well commercially, I do. But right now I think it's more of a critical play than a commercial play, even though it's sort of positioned as a commercial play, and it's sort of reliance. It thinks it's a commercial play, and if it doesn't do commercial, everyone will reject it. I think if it was more just to focus on the critical audience, it would do better, but right now it's positioning itself as a commercial movie, and that relies on the success of the box office. So, she could get in, Dan Kaluuya could get in for Best Supporting Actor, but as of right now, I'm not too sure. You never want to bet against the powerhouse that is Viola Davis, but I just don't believe in Widows right now. Julia Roberts, of course, sort of has a performance every once in a while. She had Wonder last year. This year she has Ben is Back. So she is definitely a person to watch because she is very strong in that movie. And then Nicole Kidman I have here for Destroyer. Right now I think her chances are better for Boy Erased for Best Supporting Actress. But Nicole Kidman, I mean, we do see this rise of her where she's starting to become, a really sort of well-respected, serious actor. That's sort of not seen as sort of the the ingenue, sort of pretty one that we've seen her since Batman back in the day. She's really the sort of powerhouse of a lead actress with someone like a Lion and Big Little Lies. She's very well respected in the awards community so far. So I don't think Destroyer is not that kind of movie to get in, but the fact that she does have Destroyer actually may help her chances in Best Supporting Actress. So if you're not sure, maybe you don't believe in Glenn Close. I'm not even sure if I believe in Glenn Close. You may want to go with probably Toni Collette with Hereditary or Viola Davis for Widows. Hard to say anyways, but I think those top four actually are pretty solid, and I think watch out for Olivia Colman and Yalitza Aparicio, and even Can You Ever Forgive Me. Those are movies that people aren't considering Yalitza, but I think she has a strong chance of getting in. That's about it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Comment below, let me know some of your thoughts. I'd love to hear the community. That's why I make these videos. Stay tuned to next week where we see the best actor predictions. That's going to be a very fun one because it's an incredibly competitive year. Stay tuned for that. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my videos. That's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. And until next time, stay tuned.